Here we go. Another Bond episode. And this is the last Pierce Brosnan episode. So this is it before we enter the final leg of this thing. After this, 4 more movies and it's done. But for now, we start with Die Another Day from 2002. Oh man. Lee Tamahori directed this. Here's a fun one. The first person that was approached to direct this movie, that's Michael Bay. Michael Bay was approached to direct this movie, and he would have done it. He turned it down, however, because he was working on another movie, which is Bad Boys 2. He decided to do Bad Boys 2, which I'm glad he did, because Bad Boys 2 is actually one of my favorite movies. I love Bad Boys 2. Bad Boys 1 was cool. Bad Boys 1 didn't have a really good plot. Bad Boys 2 was funny. It was good. Michael, I'm one of those guys that's like, not everything Michael Bay does is bad. Just mostly. So, here we go. Bond is Pierce Brosnan. His 4th outing. I love Pierce Brosnan as Bond. He is so awesome. Not some of the best movies, but whatever. He was 49 when he did this, so he was getting long in the tooth here. We meet Jinx, Miranda. We have one of the weirder villains in Colonel Moon. The Aston Martin Vanquish is in this, and we have the Die Another Day song. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. All right. So first off, to start it off, basically this is a Bond movie that is absolutely crapped on all the time. Like, people do not like this film. Yeah, it's not. I'm trying to think of a nice way to put it. It's just not a well-liked Bond film. In fact, this is Pierce Brosnan's least favorite Bond film of his. Of the 4 he did, this is the one he liked the least. And I can say that it is not my least favorite Brosnan Bond film. This is not the absolute piece of garbage that people think it is. It's not good. It's definitely not going to be in the higher ranks of the list, but it's not a complete piece of trash like people like to say it is. In fact, I think that what The World Is Not Enough, I think The World Is Not Enough is a lot worse than this movie. I mean, just for Christmas Jones alone, this was a lot worse. Well, I digress. We'll jump into it. We'll just go ahead and go through it because this one's probably gonna fly through. So, the movie opens in North Korea, all right, and there's some weapons going on. There's some kind of shady things, and then we see a few agents surfing into North Korea because that's what you do. You don't take like one of those motorized boats they have under or try to sneak in or swim. You surf in. And when they get done surfing, they kind of get out and they open up the surfboards and all of their weapons are in the surfboard. And it's like, okay, so that wouldn't work because that would make the surfboard not buoyant. That surfboard would sink. But whatever. This is a Bond film. You're not supposed to take it seriously, but in that aspect, it's kind of cool. They surf in, they get their weapons out of their surfboard. That's neat. We see that there's going to be some diamond exchange going on. The diamonds are in there, but Bond is going to put a bomb in the diamonds to take out somebody. He's an assassin this time. And who is he about to take out? We meet Colonel Moon. He is a North Korean, dictator of some kind. And he's punching on a heavy bag, so he knows what he's doing. He's actually using some karate, some martial arts on this heavy bag. And then he has the guy open up the heavy bag, and there's a guy in the heavy bag. He has been beating up on a human. That he actually tells him to kill the guy too. But Bond is going to sneak in with this bomb. Unfortunately, there is someone who kind of catches him, and it's Zhao. That is played by Rick Yoon. Colonel Moon is played by William Lee, but to me, this guy is more dangerous. This Zhao, played by Rick Yoon. Zhao is a little more dangerous. So he actually finds out Bond is 007. Bond is caught, and we get on a weird hovercraft escape, but Bond explodes the diamonds, and they blow up in Zal's face, which comes into play later. And then we get a full-on hovercraft chase, and it's just going down doing some hovercraft stuff, and he kills Colonel Moon. But Colonel Moon's father comes out and he's like, "You killed my son," and they capture Bond. I mean, that is pretty much. I mean, this takes about 8 minutes, 9 minutes to go, but that's pretty much what happens in the opening. Not going to be in the top 5 opening list. It's just kind of meh. So we jump right into the title. All right, and the title is a very strange title sequence. It's not just dancing ladies and weird imagery and stuff like that. It actually moves the story along because we see Bond in captivity being tortured. Little flashes of that throughout the whole thing, and I'm like, this is really cool. And it would have been one of the top title sequences had it not been for Madonna. Madonna does the Die Another Day. And everyone, I know people are like, what? But it's Madonna, you know? And it's like, okay, look. Garbage is a grunge band. And when they did a Bond song, it was an operatic thing. It wasn't a let's do a garbage song. It's let's do a Bond song. Does Madonna do that? No. Madonna makes a Madonna song. And it is just an all-out Madonna song. It's poppy and just generic and just like, I'm gonna die another day, die. And it's like, so you're seeing Bond, you're seeing Bond being tortured and beat up and just awfulness going on in the background. And you're seeing all this crap happen. But what you're actually hearing is not like, imagine if it was like Adele or someone, so it's like, die another day, like sadness. But no, you hear, die another day, die. And it's like, no, it's poppy and happy and bouncy. And I'm like, no. This was, okay, I think that I have found my least favorite Bond song in Madonna. Madonna's Die Another Day is now officially my least favorite Bond song. It is so bad. It is not a Bond song. It's a Madonna song. And she completely ruined a title sequence that could have been quite awesome. So now I'm going to move on from that because it makes me angry. But we start the movie with 14 months later. So he's been in captivity for a year and 2 months. That's crazy, and they're going to let him out, but they're going to try. The Colonel Moon's dad is just like, well, you're going to have to tell me who sent you to kill you know, they're just trying to get all kinds of information from him. Like, you're going to have to tell me, you know, what happened. Your country has abandoned you. They aren't going to save you. You might as well just tell me. Give me information. No, but they take him to the end of the bridge, and they're like, you're done. And they get him in the firing squad, and he just doesn't give up any information. Instead, the firing squad walks away, and the colonel tells him to walk. It's like, all right. He's walking, and it turns out that the British government has traded him for Zao, which Zao looks a little different. That's what Zao looks like now. He's got diamonds all in his face, so they traded him for Zao. And that's strange because they don't negotiate with terrorists, but I mean, we don't really find out the specifics of what happened. We just find out that M is like, I wouldn't have traded for you. I would have let you die. And I mean, because that's M. Like she does it for country, man. But we don't find out who did it. But we do see something that I forgot. I had completely forgotten about this, and it made me so happy to see it. But out of nowhere, we meet Damien Falco. Oh, why is that important? Well, Damien Falco is played by one of my favorite people ever in movies, Michael Madsen. I adore Michael Madsen. Like, this dude, he kind of plays the same role in every movie he's in. Kill Bill, Reservoir Dogs, all that. But he's so good at being a bad guy and just a horrible human. He is so good at it. And he has I mean, if you haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, man, It's the scene when he has the police officer strapped to the chair and he's dancing to Stuck in the Middle with You, and sorry, but cutting off the dude's ear. He's just like torturing this guy. Michael Madsen ad-libbed the part where he was like speaking into his ear. When he cut his ear off and he's like, hello, hello, can you hear me? You know, that was ad-libbed by Michael Madsen. And it takes a twisted human to do something like that. I love Michael Madsen, just mind-blowing, and he's in a Bond film, and I had completely forgot about it. But he's here, and I love it. But the whole thing, Bond is kind of decommissioned, and he's going to have to find out who set 007 up, who set him up to be captured by these guys. Someone told them that this is 007 James Bond. Someone told these Koreans, and it happened. So, but he's in in basically a hospital bed, but they're watching him at MI6, making sure, you know, like, dude, you're decommissioned. Sorry, you're out of it. And he's going to escape. How does Bond escape from captivity from MI6? He slows his heart rate down to go into cardiac arrest, and they come in to save his life, and he chop sueys his way out. Judo chop, judo chop, judo chop. Gets out. He's free. Bond is out, and it's really cool. And he has to escape, and he's on his own for a minute. And he's going to this hotel that he used to go to all the time. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Bond." He's like, "Yeah, get me some clothes. I don't have any clothes." This whole time he's just wearing like scrubs. It's not really scrubs. It's like more of like like pajamas. But he's in there, and they actually try an assassination attempt on him, and they send in this girl's got a really long name. She's not exactly a Bond girl because they don't really get down. But this is Peaceful Foundations of Desire. That is her full name in this movie. Peaceful Foundations of Desire, played by Rachel Grant. Beautiful girl, absolutely. But she is trying to assassinate him, and she fails, of course, because it's Bond. She fails. And he actually finds her gun and shoots the mirror, and the guy who let him in the whole time, Bond, yes, stay at my hotel. He's turned out he's Chinese intelligence the whole time. And he's just like, yeah, I already knew that, dog. So yeah, you aren't going to assassinate me, and I need information now. And he's like, oh, tell me where these diamonds come from. He's like, okay, cool. And he's like, who set me up? Well, you're gonna have to go to like Cuba. He's like, send me to Korea. That's the whole thing. He was like, if I will let you live if you send me to Korea, so I can get revenge. And they're like, well, Zhao isn't in Korea. He's in Cuba. I'm like, all right, well, they send him to Cuba. He gets to Cuba, where we meet Jinx, which is played by the polarizing Holly Berry. Some people like Jinx, some people don't. Some people like Holly Berry, some people don't. A lot of people don't like Holly Berry because they feel that she destroyed the X-Men franchise, and whatever, she's a good actress. In fact, she's such a good actress that while she was filming this movie, she had to leave for a couple of days to go to the Oscars to pick up her Oscar. This movie has a lot of Oscar winners in it. This movie has a ton of Oscar winners in it. You've already seen two so far at this point in the movie. You've seen Dame Judi Dench and Halle Berry. So this is very cool. And Jinx is there, and they get to sexy time really quick. They talk, and they have a little bit of a conversation, and they get straight down to it. And this is actually the first time we see Bond having sex. We usually it's like afterwards, and they're like, whoo, you know, or smoking a cigarette, or they kiss and go down to the bed or something like that. This, you actually see them rolling around. In fact, this had to be trimmed. This whole scene had to be trimmed by 7 seconds to get a PG-13 rating. So this was a rated R Bond for a minute, but it happens. But it's just so weird. They just jump right into it, and we find out more about Jinx, that she is actually an assassin. When she comes she finds a doctor who's talking about replacing her DNA. And he's like, okay, and he's kind of handsy. And she's like, well, here's the money, and then she shoots him dead. She's like, okay, so she just stopped something, but we don't really know what it is because Bond is kind of sneaking around the same place. And he finds Zhao, and Zhao is getting something done to his face, and Zhao looks different again. He looks like this. Yeah, he's an albino now. He is white, blue eyes, and diamonds all over his face. But Zhao and Bond has fights, and it's not going well for Bond. But we do find out that Jinx is after Zhao too, because Jinx is trying to kill him. While Bond is chasing Zhao, Jinx is actually after him. Cool. All right. But Jinx gets caught by the government, and she decides, or not the government, but by the police, and she's just like, well, what do I do? Well, I'm going to jump off this bridge in one of the worst CGI moments in history. She jumps backwards, and it turns into CGI, and you can tell it's CGI, and the splash that she makes when she hits the water is CGI. It's just, boop, and it's just, it looked really bad. Like, that was one, whenever I looked up this movie to look up reviews for it and stuff, the main thing I was seeing was that this movie has such bad CGI that it kind of ruins the movie. It's like, I don't think that dive ruined the movie. And then there's one more point that had bad CGI, but I don't think it ruins the movie. It is kind of sad that it's 2002 and we're having, you know, this bit of problems. I mean, in a movie that's 2 hours and 18 minutes long, to only have like 2 or 3 bad CGI moments, that's not too bad. I mean, it could have been worse. So she has a horrible moment. We do find out that who Michael Madsen's Damien Falco character is, and he is the equivalent of M, except in America. He's American's M, which makes sense because he's gruff and he's American. He's rrr. So later on, we find once the fight with Zhao is over, he has pulled Zhao's necklace off. He looks in the necklace, and it's got diamonds in it. The diamonds have little GG. Well, he goes and investigates. What's GG mean? Well, we find out it means Gustav Graves. This is our bad guy. He is a spoiled rich brat. He's an adrenaline junkie, and he just wants power, and he hates losing. There's nothing. He's like, you will win at any cost. In this moment, he has like a publicist slash assistant, I guess, and it's played, and she is Miranda, who is played by the amazing Rosamund Pike. Rosamund Pike is one of the best actors out there today. She is so good. If you haven't seen Gone Girl, holy crap. She is amazing in that film. Also, Oscar winner. So, we have 3 now. I think a grand total of 5 Oscar winners are in this movie because Madonna is technically an Oscar winner. But this is also Rosamund Pike's first film ever, which is super cool. This is the where she cut her teeth. And during her audition, she said she went into the audition and the first thing she had to do was take off her dress and drop it. And that was like, she's been to auditions before. She's been in like lower tier stuff, but she's never been in a feature film. She walks in and the first thing she has to do is drop her dress. And she said that made her very uncomfortable. So, but it is a part of a Bond thing. There is a scene where she does that. And I'm hoping that's why she had to do it. So, because, I mean, I would hate to think that this doctor or this casting director is just, like, abusing women like this. So, I would like to think that it was part of the Bond girl to see if she can pull off the sexiness of the scene. Because she does do it. But, alright, so we go in, it's her first film, and then something else happens. So, Madonna ruined the title sequence. She ruined it because that song's horrible. And does she stop there? Does she stop there at like, oh, I'm going to make a horrible Bond song? No, she doesn't stop there. She decides, hey, I'm going to be a part of the movie. She plays Miranda's fencing teacher. Let me tell you. Let me just. She is such a bad actress. She is so bad. She has movies out there that you can watch. Go ahead, watch Body of Evidence. It has Willem Dafoe in it. And she is horrible. And she's not good in this. Thank God she's not a Bond girl. And then she was actually even supposed to have a bigger part. Because she was supposed to be like, her and Miranda were supposed to have some kind of a thing going on. It was supposed to be like a lesbian thing, but the director decided to pull it from the movie because he didn't want Miranda and Madonna to become eye candy and take over the movie. And believe me, it's Madonna. She probably would have. Like, oh, can I have a bigger part? Can we just replace Pierce Brosnan with Madonna? If you can tell, I don't like Madonna. I'm not going to say that she's not a legend, or that she hasn't inspired a ton of music, or that she isn't a spectacular singer. I'm not saying that. But the song she made for this was horrible, and she's a horrible actress, and she's known for doing stuff like this, like injecting herself into things, so making it about Madonna. So no, sorry, can't do it. But anyway, let's move on to the point when we get a sword fight between Mr. Gustav Graves and James Bond. At first, it's just a fencing, just ching, 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 and they stabs. It's like 2-0. Bond's losing, and he's like, "Let's up the ante." But Bond's a little angry. He's like, "Let's do it for your diamond." He's like, "Whoa, you got my diamond, okay?" And it gets a little angry. He's like, "So let's up the ante. You're playing for the diamond." First blood, and they like get real swords out. And there's a moment where he tosses the sword to Bond, and Bond kicks the sword out the floor, the fencing sword, kicks it towards the camera, and it makes this awesome arc out in front of the camera. And that was ad-libbed by Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan has an ad-lib moment in every single one of his movies, and it improves the movie. Going under the water and doing his tie, kicking the sword out. The plot point of Terry Hatcher and Bond like being past lovers, that wasn't in the script, but Pierce Brosnan said, "Hey, how about we do this?" So Pierce Brosnan adds to these movies, which in my opinion shoots him up the ranks because he's awesome. He kicks the sword, and then we get to this awesome sword fight that starts on the fencing board and just travels all around this little club, and they are destroying everything. They're destroying glass, they're destroying walls, they're destroying banisters, they're cutting things with swords. Bond ends up winning, slicing the dude's stomach, and then it's all like, okay, that's enough. Miranda's okay, that's enough. And Bond and our boy Gustav, they're like, yeah, like dudes do. This is a guy thing. Two women get in a fist fight, they hate each other for the rest of their lives. It's like they get in a fist fight when they're 18 years old. When they're both 60, they see each other at Walmart. They're like, bitch. And it's like men do, and it's like, oh yeah, they're best friends the next day. That's the way, because that's why men don't live as long as women. We're stupid, so we hang around toxic people. But anyway, actually, some of my best friends were started because of fights, but whatever. So they've destroyed everything. Now they're cool and everything. And he's like, "Hey, Bond, meet me at this place at this time, and I'll show you what I do." We go to see M, and M is telling Bond about gene therapy, about replacing your DNA with something else so you can become someone else. Like, it's not just a new passport or a new ID. This is full on becoming someone else, and becomes a thing. We have the next scene is one of the next scenes is nuts because it's Bond waking up in his hotel room, or not in his hotel room, but Bond walking around MI6, and people have kidnapped him, and he's like popping people left and right, pop, 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 and then he comes up, and M is about to get killed, and the dude has her by the throat and a gun to her head, or has a hand on her shoulder and a gun to her head, and Bond shoots the guy's hand, goes through, hits M, and he pops the guy in the head. And it turns out he's in a VR thing. He's in a virtual reality thing. And the new Q, who was our John Cleese Q, is like, well, it's great until you shot your boss. And he was like, hey, it's just a flesh wound. Which, if you don't know, John Cleese, the Black Knight, when he cuts off his leg, oh, it's a mere flesh wound. It was a callback to Monty Python. This is cool. There's actually a lot of callbacks to Monty Python. The funny walk from Monty Python, when he walks past the Vanquish, you see that too. There's a lot of callbacks. Nothing wrong with that. I like it. But he does have that reference. He has another reference where he's like, oh, here's your watch, Bond. And Bond puts it on. He's like, I think that's your 20th watch. That's a callback that this is the 20th Bond movie. This is the 20th Eon Bond movie, so the canon ones. So he's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm losing, kind of thing. And we see the Vanquish. The picture's there. It's just an invisible car, and I'm not even kidding. This thing is an invisible car. This is what it actually looks like. There you go. It's an invisible car, man. That is an Aston Martin Vanquish, or as Q calls it, the Vanish. It's an amazing vehicle, and let me tell you how amazing this vehicle is. When they were showing Pierce Brosnan the car he would be driving, it's like, this is the car you're going to be driving in the car. I mean, in the movie. And Pierce Brosnan said, "You give me that car and take it out of my paycheck." And they did it. He actually got less pay for this movie so he could keep the car. He could keep the Aston Martin. And that is awesome. He loved this car so much he actually took money off his paycheck for it. And the sad part is, in 2012 there was a wildfire and the car burned. So he ended up losing the car 10 years later. But still, super cool little factoid. And we also find out that Miranda is an undercover MI6 agent. She's undercover trying to infiltrate Gustav Graves because no one trusts this guy. That's okay. And then right after that, we find out that Graves is not alone. He is working with Zhao, and they're together. But then we get the shocker. Gustav Graves is actually Colonel Moon. He's had the gene therapy to make him look different. And they whitewashed him. He turned him into a white guy. Just like Zhao, they whitewashed him, turned him into a white guy. But he is literally white because he's albino. So we find out that he is Colonel Moon. And the thing is, it's like he went through this gene therapy, this DNA swapping, or if you will. And it has caused some side effects. He has permanent insomnia. He cannot sleep, which makes him a little... So every day he has to put a mask on, and he has to dream for an hour. It's a little mask that sends him into like a dream state, but he can't sleep. So that would suck. So that's how he's actually become rich. And he has this little thing he's going to use. He calls it Icarus. It's basically a giant mirror in the sky that takes the sun's energy and turns it into energy, which is cool. And this is all learned in his little ice palace. He's got his ice palace going on. And Bond and Jinx are sneaking around this ice palace trying to get some information. But Bond is a little distracted by Miranda because Miranda's like, "Look, I know you're James Bond and I'm working with MI6 too. And the only thing I'm not allowed to do is have sex with you." Well, what'd she do? She had sex with him. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, it's a thing. So, yeah, those two gets down. I'm like, okay. And that's where she kind of drops the dress. It's like, because she's talking to him. She's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just..." And it's like, okay. All right, cool. But all this time, Jinx is caught. And they're going to do bad things to her. They tie her up and they're going to shoot her with a laser and they're going to kill her. It's going to be awful. But Bond comes to the rescue. They have a fight with a laser. And it's kind of nutty. So... They have the laser and they're trying to kill it. The henchmen and Bond are trying to kill each other with lasers, and then Bond shoots him in the mouth with a laser and it goes through the back of his head. He dies, but he ends up saving Jinx. Cool, yay! And then we has an invisible car chase. It's a thing. They have an invisible car chase. Yeah. And it's actually him and Zhao that are having this car chase. But Zhao has his own car, and this one is pretty much match for match. Like what Bond pops out some missiles, he pops out some missiles. Bond, just everything he has. Guns, he has guns. He actually ends up turning Bond over in one of the coolest moments of the Bond movies. He's on his roof and he actually hits the ejector seat and it pops him back on his wheels and he keeps going. And he keeps going, keeps fighting. But so this, oh man, it's so bad. It's, well, not really so bad. It's actually pretty cool. So like, I'm just describing this, but anyway, they get the laser fight and all that. But in the end, Miranda actually is a bad guy. She betrays Bond. He uses his new little ring to escape. He has this ring where he twists it once and it can blow up glass, and he actually gets out of all these positions. It's really, really cool. He does have a surf parachute moment, which is the other bad CGI moment, where he is he's dangling off the edge of a cliff, and he has to get this parachute. He jumps off, he opens the parachute, and it looks so bad because he uses the trunk lid of this thing as a surfboard, and it's just, you can tell it's CGI, and it's so awful. That's pretty bad CGI. I don't think it ruined the movie, but it definitely ruined that action sequence. But that's when the car chase is happening. Right after that's when the car chase is happening. And Jinx is taken, and they're going to drown Jinx. So the whole time he's running from Zhao, he's actually trying to get to Jinx. And he has the flip car moment, blah, blah. And he gets in there, but he's going to have to save her somehow. He makes the car go invisible, and it makes Zhao drive off the edge. That's the end of that. It was a cool car chase. It's just very muddy, very messy. Zhao is alive though, and he's sitting in a pool, and Bond makes a chandelier fall on him, and Zhao's dead. He ends up saving Jinx with mouth to mouth and stuff because she actually did drown. But finally, the third act, Bond and Jinx are sneaking onto a plane. Yeah. We find out the real point of Icarus is to use it as like a sun laser and burn the Earth. He's going to burn the Earth. That's it. First, he's going to use it to set off some nuclear bombs, and then Colonel Moon, Gustav Graves, brings in his own father. He's like, "Don't you recognize me?" He's like, my son died that day," and he ends up killing his own dad, which is awful. And then we get Bond versus Graves and Miranda versus Jinx. This is a full-on fist fight between the two. Fist fight, punch, 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 punch. Yeah. Of course, Jinx kills Miranda, and weirdly, I kind of don't agree with the way they did it because it was a full-on sword fight, and Miranda is an Olympic swordsmith. She's an Olympic fencer, but Jinx still kind of beat her, and she stabs her in the chest and kicks the knife, and dead. She's dead. And Bond is about to kill Graves, but Graves is like, "Well, I've got 2 parachutes. Well, now I only got 1." But Bond opens up the parachute, and it's in the plane, so it jerks him out, and Bond kicks him into the jet engine. Boom. And they end up doing a very Bond thing where they go to the copter, and they push the copter out of the plane, and the copter falls, and right before it hits the ground, survive. So that's it. That's the end of that. They survived it. But that's not the end, because the end is Moneypenny sitting there at the desk, and James Bond comes in, and they start kind of gets down. They're going to get down with Moneypenny. But it turns out she's in her VR thing. So it wasn't quite that. But happy endings. Bond and Jinx have all the diamonds, but they're going to have to return them. So that was the end. And I know I made it sound muddy, and I had some complaints about it, but I still thought this was better than The World Is Not Enough. The World Is Not Enough was really boring. This one kept my attention. This one never really dragged that much. There was moments where it kind of dragged, but I thought it was better than The World Is Not Enough, so I don't know what the gripe is. I can see where it is not a great Bond film, and much like the other Pierce Brosnan Bonds, Pierce Brosnan is the highlight of these films, and Pierce Brosnan is an amazing James Bond. But having said that, that's the end of the Pierce Brosnan James Bonds. I have no more. I start the Daniel Craig James Bonds now. Woo! And Daniel Craig, this is another one where people kind of crap on him. They're like, "No, he's a bad James Bond." Is he? If you think he's a bad James Bond, you might need to pick up a book, because the James Bond source material, he's the closest to it. Just saying. Casino Royale is next. 2006, Martin Campbell's back. He did GoldenEye, which was a fantastic film. Daniel Craig's starting up. We have the wonderful Eva Green coming in here. Mads Mikkelsen. Hannibal. Yes, Mads Mikkelsen, baby. Chris Cornell sings the freaking theme song, and I love Chris Cornell. I'm a huge Soundgarden fan. I grew up on grunge. The Aston Martin DB5's back, the 1963 version, and the 2006 version. So this should be interesting. And a little fun for me in that these are the only 4 films in the James Bond series that are actually 4K. You can get 4K versions on Amazon Prime, but they are digital 4K versions, so they're not true 4K, they're just up-rendered. But the next 4 films, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and Spectre, are all native 4K. Well, Skyfall and Spectre are native 4K. The other 2 are up-rendered, but they are 4K. And I get to see these movies for the first time in 4K, and I'm very excited about that. 4K Ultra HD, I'm a big fan of it. So I'm getting excited for that. But as for Die Another Day, this movie got 7 out of 10. Yeah. Yeah, it's my favorite. It's my favorite rating. And I would actually put it just above The World Is Not Enough, even though it is better than. I would put it just above that, probably below Diamonds Are Forever. But yeah, it's all right. The body count 31, love count 2. And that's it though. I mean, I enjoyed it. And it's a fun fact here. My fiance watched this with me. This is a movie that she's seen a billion times. She really loves Die Another Day. But there's a but here. She hadn't seen it in a few years, and she pretty much didn't like it as much. She's like, this is a little corny, but I don't know. Maybe I can get her to watch some Daniel Craig movies with me. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please join me again for Casino Royale. That's what it is. It says right here, Casino Royale. DC will return. Casino Royale.